Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. They hunted us in the silence, until we answered with a roar that shook stars. First contact and ultimatum. The obsidian ships of the Vexorary Empire appeared without warning in Earth's skies on April 17, 2135. Massive vessels, each over 3 kilometers long, positioned themselves above every major city on the planet. Their hulls absorbed light rather than reflected it, creating eerie shadows that darkened streets below as civilians stopped and stared upward in shock and disbelief. In Geneva, home of the United Earth Government headquarters, emergency alarms blared as planetary defense systems registered the intrusion. General Maya Santos rushed into the Crisis Command Center, her normally composed features tight with tension, while screens displayed the alien vessels hovering over London, Tokyo, New York, Lagos, Sydney, and 24 other metropolitan centers. "Stat report," she demanded, her voice cutting through the chaos of the room. 17 vessels in low Earth orbit, MIME, replied Colonel Darius Chin. They appeared simultaneously, no warp signatures detected. Our defense grid is tracking them, but weapons systems report an inability to achieve lock. General Santos nodded grimly. First contact protocol, open communications on all frequencies and languages for 3 hours, Earth broadcast greetings and welcome messages for 3 hours. The ships remained silent sentinels above a planet holding its collective breath. Military forces worldwide mobilized, but orders were clear: no aggressive action. The UEG leadership knew that humanity's spacefaring capabilities, though advanced from the early 21st century, remained primitive compared to a civilization capable of coordinated interstellar travel. At precisely 1600 hours UTC, every communication device on Earth, from quantum-linked government terminals to personal neural interfaces, activated simultaneously. The face that appeared belonged to a humanoid being with silvery skin, a hairless head, and eyes with vertical pupils, like a cat's. When it spoke, perfect translation came through in the listener's native language. "People of Earth, I am High Commander Krax of the Vexorary Empire. Your world has been catalogued, assessed, and claimed for imperial expansion. The process is non-negotiable. You have 30 Earth days to dismantle your governmental structures and prepare for integration. Resistance will result in planetary sterilization, compliance will be rewarded with survival." The message repeated once, then ended, leaving humanity in stunned silence for approximately 8 seconds before global panic erupted. The United Earth Security Council convened an emergency session while riots broke out in cities worldwide, markets crashed, and religious leaders called for prayer. Military forces went to highest alert, though their weapons seemed laughably inadequate against ships that could traverse the stars. Elena Reyes had been in her laboratory at the Quantum Physics Institute in Chile when the message came through. Unlike most of her colleagues, who abandoned their work to join the general panic, Elena remained staring at the sensor readings her equipment had automatically gathered when the ships arrived. "That's impossible," she whispered, cross-referencing the data points. "The energy signatures emanating from the alien vessels displayed patterns I recognize from my own research into quantum field manipulation. The ships were generating fields that shouldn't be possible with current scientific understanding, and yet the mathematical basis looked oddly familiar." 3 days after first contact, while global leaders debated futile military options and potential surrender terms, Elena requested an urgent meeting with the Security Council. Her reputation as the leading quantum physicist on Earth earned her an immediate audience. "The Vexorary ships are utilizing what I call quantum envelope technology," she explained, displaying complex equations on the chamber's main screen. "Their defensive systems, propulsion, and likely their weapons all operate on principles I have been theorizing for the past decade. The remarkable thing is, they have a fundamental vulnerability." General Santos leaned forward. "What kind of vulnerability?" "Their quantum fields operate on precise resonance frequencies," Elena explained. "If we can generate a counter-resonance field at exactly the right amplitude and phase, we could potentially disrupt their entire technological infrastructure. Their shields would fail, their weapons would deactivate, and their communications would collapse. How long to develop such technology? Asked the Chinese representative. Elena's expression tightened. With global cooperation and resources, 4 to 5 months. We have 30 days before their deadline. The room fell silent until Ambassador Kimura of Japan stood. Then we must buy time. We appear to cooperate while secretly preparing our defense. Over the next 24 hours, a plan formalized. Ambassador Kimura would serve as Earth's representative to the Vexery, requesting additional time for an orderly transition, while Alina led a worldwide scientific effort codenamed Project Stardust. Ambassador Kimura's meeting with Commander Krax took place aboard the flagship vessel. The elderly diplomat maintained perfect poise despite the alien environment. The commander began with a respectful bow. Earth is prepared to accept imperial authority, however, our world contains over 200 sovereign nations with complex economic and political systems. To ensure an efficient transition, we request a 6-month preparation period. Force us to rush, and you'll face administrative chaos. Allow us time, and Earth will integrate smoothly into your empire. Krax studied the human with mild interest. Your cooperation is unexpected. Most species resist until a demonstration of our superior firepower becomes necessary. We are a practical people, Kimura replied simply. After brief consideration, Krax agreed to the extension, 6 months, no more. Your compliance will be rewarded with preferential treatment in the new order. As Kimura's shuttle returned to Earth, Operation Stardust activated worldwide. In a converted mining facility 5 kilometers beneath Lake Blee, Dr. Alina Riaz established the primary research hub. Similar facilities activated across all continents, underground, underwater, hidden from Vexery observation. Above ground, Earth appeared to prepare for imperial integration. Administrative buildings were constructed in major cities, and schools began cultural orientation programs, supposedly preparing for Vexori governance. Military forces publicly stood down, their equipment placed in storage. The Vexerai observed these developments with satisfaction. Commander Krax reported to his superiors that Earth's integration was proceeding smoothly, with humans proving sensibly cooperative. Monitoring ships reduced their presence, redeploying to more troublesome sectors of the expanding empire. Meanwhile, beneath the surface, humanity built its defense. The counter-resonance technology evolved from theory to prototype. Testing facilities verified its effectiveness against simulated Vexerai quantum fields. Production began on thousands of specialized satellites designed to appear as standard communications equipment, yet containing the critical counter-resonance generators. 3 months into the 6-month extension, Alina's team achieved a breakthrough in a secure testing chamber. They successfully collapsed a replica of Vexerai's shielding technology. It works, Alina whispered as she watched the energy field dissipate. Dark circles shattered her eyes from months of 18-hour workdays, but a fierce smile lit her face. We've got them. General Santos watched the demonstration with cautious optimism. How soon can we deploy? 2 months for full global coverage, Alina answered. We'll be ready before their deadline. The production phase accelerated. Nations that had once been adversaries now shared resources and manufacturing capacity, and satellite launches increased under the guise of upgrading Earth's communications infrastructure for imperial integration. The Vexerai inspected the first few launches, found nothing suspicious, and subsequently paid little attention. What they didn't understand was that while each individual satellite contained nothing threatening, together they formed a global network capable of generating the precise counter-resonance field that would neutralize Vexerai technology. 5.5 months after first contact, Earth was ready. The satellite network stood at 94% deployment. Small, maneuverable spacecraft, officially designated as Imperial support vessels but secretly armed with counter-resonance weaponry, waited in hidden underwater and subterranean hangars worldwide. In his underground command center, General Santos addressed the combined military leadership of Earth. Tomorrow, the Vexerai expect our formal surrender. Instead, they'll face humanity's refusal to be conquered. Our ancestors fought for freedom across this planet for millennia. Tomorrow, we fight for it across the stars. As the resistance prepared for battle, Dr. Ella Reyes calibrated the final adjustments to the Stardust system. Tomorrow would determine whether her work saved humanity or witnessed its end. She thought of all the billions of lives depending on her equations being correct, her theory holding true when tested against actual Vexuri technology rather than simulations. All across Earth, people went about their daily routines, most unaware that the following day would either mark the end of human independence or the beginning of humanity's emergence as a force in the galaxy. The Vexurary ships continued their silent watch, never suspecting that the supposedly primitive species below had spent 6 months preparing a surprise that would shake the foundations of their empire, Operation Stardust and beyond. The day Earth was scheduled to formally surrender to the Vexuri Empire dawned clear and bright. Commander Krax stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the blue planet through viewing portals. After 6 months of preparation, the integration of this world into the Empire would proceed smoothly, another triumph for his distinguished career. An incoming transmission from the human representative was announced. His communications officer, Display Krax, ordered him to straighten his posture slightly. Ambassador Kim's face appeared on the main screen. The elderly diplomat wore formal attire and maintained his usual composed expression. Commander Krax, he began with a respectful nod, on behalf of the people of Earth, I extend our gratitude for your patience during our preparation period. Krax inclined his head slightly. Your efficiency has been noted. The Empire welcomes Earth's integration. The people of Earth have considered your generous offer of vassalage. Kimura continued in his measured tone, we respectfully decline. Krax blinked rapidly, certain he had misunderstood. Clarify your statement, Ambassador, Earth will not surrender its sovereignty. Kimura replied calmly, we choose independence. Fury contorted Krax's features. This decision means your extinction. Our weapons are targeted on every major population center, you have no defenses. Against the flagship, it shuddered violently. Warning alarms blared across the bridge as control panels flickered and died. Shield failure detected, shouted the tactical officer. All defensive systems offline. Similar reports came from all vessels across Earth's orbit. The Stardust network activated, 200 satellites, positioned strategically over the past 6 months, released targeted counter-resonance waves. The invisible energy rippled through space, interacting with Vexuri quantum fields and causing catastrophic systems failures throughout their fleet and in command centers beneath every ocean. Final launch orders were given. The waters of the Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic Oceans bulged and parted as massive hidden doors opened, sleek vessels rose from the depths, Earth's secret defense fleet. General Santos stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiance, watching as her vessel broke the surface off the coast of Japan. Water streamed from its hull as it rose into the air. All vessels, report ready, her tactical officer announced. Begin ascent to attack positions, Santos ordered, her voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. Prepare main weapons. The Earth fleet rose rapidly, powered by advanced propulsion systems developed in secret. The ships appeared primitive compared to Vexuri vessels, bulkier, less elegant, but each carried weapons specifically designed to target systems weakened by the Stardust network in orbit. Commander Krax watched in disbelief as his tactical display showed multiple vessels approaching from Earth. Impossible, he shouted as his flagship systems continued malfunctioning. Their technology is too primitive for this. Sir, we've lost weapons control, reported his second officer. Communications are failing. Other ships reported similar disruptions. Krax slammed his fist on the armrest. How can this be? They were compliant, they were submissive. On the Defiance, General Santos opened a channel to all Earth vessels. This is General Santos to all ships, the Stardust network is functioning at optimal levels, Vexuri systems are down. Remember your training, they're vulnerable now. The first wave of Earth's attack targeted the command ships hovering over major cities. Precision weapons struck propulsion systems and weapons arrays, carefully avoiding reactor cores to prevent catastrophic explosions that would endanger the populations below. The Vexori ships, accustomed to fighting behind impenetrable shields, had never developed extensive point defense systems. Their crews, trained to rely on technological superiority, found themselves facing an enemy who had systematically neutralized their advantages. "Target their engine cells," Santos ordered as the Defiance approached a Vexori cruiser. "Disable, don't destroy, unless absolutely necessary." Earth's ships moved in coordinated patterns, attacking in groups of 3 against each Vexori vessel. The human fleet had no chance in a fair fight, but this was not meant to be fair, it was asymmetric warfare on a planetary scale. In his increasingly dysfunctional command center, Commander Crack struggled to organize a defense. "Launch fighters. All vessels, concentrate fire on the largest human ships." But the fighter bays couldn't open with systems failing, weapons fired erratically, missing their targets for the first time in his career. Cracks faced an enemy who had completely outmaneuvered him. Near Mars orbit, where the Vexori had stationed their reserve forces, another surprise awaited. Over the past 6 months, unmanned missions supposedly sent to prepare Mars for mining operations had instead established human bases on Phobos and Deimos, Mars' 2 moons. Now a second wave of Earth ships emerged from these hidden facilities. "Operation Red Hammer is go," announced Captain Lin to her fleet. "All ships, engage according to plan." The Vexorary reserve force found itself caught between attackers from 2 directions. Earth ships pressed from behind while the Mars contingent blocked their escape route. "How did they establish bases on the moons?" demanded the Vexori commander. "Our scans showed nothing but automated mining equipment." The truth was ingenious in its simplicity. The mining equipment contained disassembled ships and weapons, brought piece by piece over 6 months and assembled in underground hangars. The Vexori, focused on Earth itself, had paid little attention to what they considered routine resource development. 3 hours after the counterattack began, half the Vexori fleet in Earth orbit had been disabled or destroyed. The remainder fought desperately against an enemy that seemed to know every weakness in their supposedly superior technology. On the flagship, now trailing smoke from multiple hull breaches, Commander Crax made a difficult decision. "Prepare for emergency jump to light speed," he ordered. "We must inform the Imperial capital of this situation." "Sir, our engines are severely damaged," his navigation officer replied. "We cannot achieve light speed." "Then send a message through the quantum relay network, send word to the Imperial capital, the humans are not what they seem. They've developed technology that neutralizes our quantum fields, request immediate reinforcements." The communications officer worked frantically at his console. "Sir, I cannot establish a connection with any relay, the network appears to be offline." What Commander Crax didn't know was that Earth's forces had prioritized the destruction of the Empire's quantum communication relays in the solar system. Special teams had targeted these small, unshielded devices in the first minutes of the attack, and the solar system was now cut off from the rest of the Empire. General Santos watched from the Defiance as the Imperial flagship attempted to retreat. "They're trying to run," she observed. "Target their propulsion, but leave them functional. We want survivors." "Why?" her second-in-command asked. "Because survivors tell stories," she replied, "and the story of Earth's resistance needs to spread." By nightfall, Earth's victory was complete. The Vexori fleet that had arrived 6 months earlier to accept Earth's surrender was now disabled, destroyed, or in retreat. Human casualties were minimal. The element of surprise and the effectiveness of the Stardust network had worked exactly as planned. In her laboratory beneath Lake Blee, Dr. Elena Ray watched the battle telemetry with tears in her eyes. The counter-resonance technology had performed even better than predicted. Humanity had won its first battle against the Empire. "They'll be back," she said softly to no one in particular, "and they'll be ready for Stardust next time. But now, Earth will be ready too." The age of human subjugation had ended before it began. Instead, a new chapter was opening, one where humanity would fight not just for its own freedom, but perhaps for the freedom of other worlds under imperial rule. News travels faster than light in a galactic empire. but not through any physical means. The unofficial network of whispers, coded messages, and secret transmissions connected subjugated worlds across thousands of light years. When Kraxa's damaged flagship limped into the shipyards at Century Station, rumors began immediately. Earth fought back, humans disabled Imperial quantum fields, a primitive world defeated an Imperial fleet on Lyra Prime, a world conquered 3 centuries earlier. Factory workers gathered in hidden underground chambers to share the news. On Arcturus IV, resistance leaders who had fought a hopeless battle for generations suddenly found reason to hope. In the mining colonies of the Riel Belt, slaves looked up from their labor with new light in their eyes. The Vexerary High Command met in emergency session on their throne world. The vast chamber, built from rare metals and adorned with trophies from 1,000 conquered civilizations, echoed with angry voices. "This cannot stand," shouted War Minister Drex, slamming his fist on the polished table. "A primitive world has humiliated the Empire, other subjects will be watching." Supreme Commander Forna, the oldest and most respected of the military leadership, nodded gravely. "Already, we receive reports of increased resistance activities on 12 worlds. The humans have provided more than a tactical defeat, they have provided hope." Grand Admiral Zixas sat silently, reviewing battle records from Earth. Unlike his colleagues, he did not rage or threaten. His vertical pupils narrowed as he studied the human tactics. "The Void Armada will handle this matter," he finally said in a quiet voice that immediately silenced the room. "I will personally lead the expedition." As the Empire's most decorated military leader, Zixas had crushed rebellions across 50 star systems. His Void Armada contained the most advanced warships and best-trained crews in known space. "This insurgence will be crushed decisively," Zix declared as he rose to leave. "Earth will serve as an example to any who consider defiance." The Void Armada began preparation for departure. 300 ships, each more powerful than anything in Kraxa's defeated fleet, gathered at rally points. Intelligence officers studied everything known about Earth's defenses. Engineers developed countermeasures against the reported counter-resonance technology. Meanwhile, Earth prepared for the inevitable counterstrike. The United Earth Defense Council established permanent headquarters in an underground facility beneath the Swiss Alps, and military forces remained on high alert. Dr. Rice's team worked to improve the Stardust technology, knowing the Empire would adapt to their original design. 3 weeks after Earth's victory, an unexpected visitor arrived. A small ship of unknown design appeared at the edge of the solar system, broadcasting a simple message: "Friends of Earth, we come in peace." General Santos personally led the security team that greeted the strange vessel at a remote base in Antarctica. When the ship's door opened, she found herself facing a humanoid being with iridescent skin and multifaceted eyes. "I am of Lyra Prime," the visitor said in perfect English. "My people have been slaves of the Vexery Empire for 3 centuries. We come seeking alliance with the First World to defeat them in living memory." Within days, representatives from 4 other species arrived: the crystalline folians, the gaseous nebulans, the insectoid arachnids, and the reptilians, each of whom had suffered under imperial rule, each had maintained secret resistance movements, and each had resources and knowledge to share. "The Vexerary conquered our worlds when we stood alone," explained Farah during the first alliance meeting. "But together, with your counter-resonance technology, we might actually defeat them." Dr. Rice's eyes widened as the aliens shared technical data about Imperial systems. "This changes everything," she whispered to General Santos. "We were preparing for their last-generation technology, this shows what we'll actually face." "The Void Armada is commanded by Grand Admiral Zixas," warned Sa, the Saurian representative, his scaled skin reflecting the room's lights. "He is their greatest strategist, not a fool like Krax. He will expect your counter-resonance technology and have countermeasures." The allies worked quickly, sharing technologies and strategies. The Lions contributed advanced stealth systems, the Tholians provided crystalline computing matrices that revolutionized Earth's data processing, and the Nebulans taught techniques for manipulating atmospheric conditions that improved planetary defense. 2 months after forming the alliance, General Santos proposed a daring plan: we need to take the fight to them. Waiting for the Void Armada gives them the advantage. Instead, we strike first, not at their military installations, but at the heart of their control systems. Dr. Ray nodded. The quantum relay network. If we can disrupt their interstellar communications, every subjugated world becomes isolated from central control, and local resistance movements could rise simultaneously. And so the Galactic Alliance of Free Worlds was born, not from diplomatic niceties or cultural exchange, but from the shared desire for freedom against a common oppressor. Earth, the newest and most technologically primitive member, became its unexpected heart. Human ingenuity, combined with the ancient knowledge of long subjugated species, created something the Empire had never faced: a coordinated, multi-species resistance with the technology to challenge Imperial supremacy. 6 months after defeating the first Vexorary fleet, the Alliance launched Operation Avalanche, a simultaneous strike against key Imperial communication hubs across 27 star systems. As quantum relays failed throughout the Empire, carefully prepared resistance cells activated on hundreds of worlds. On the bridge of his flagship, Grand Admiral Zixes received increasingly desperate reports from across Imperial space. "We've lost contact with the Oran sector," reported his communications officer. "Antis Proan and Sirius sectors are also dark." "The humans," Zix whispered, understanding dawning in his ancient eyes, "they didn't wait for us. They turned our empire against itself." By the time the Void Armada finally reached Earth, they found not a single primitive world awaiting destruction but the headquarters of a galactic revolution that had already liberated a third of the Empire's territory. The battle that followed would become legend, not because it was the greatest military engagement of the Galactic War, it wasn't, but because it marked the moment when the Vexorei Empire realized it was no longer fighting to punish a rebellious world but struggling to survive against a coalition it had inadvertently created. 3 years later, as representatives from 37 formerly subjugated species gathered to sign the Galactic Constitution, Dr. Alina Ray stood beside General Santos on the observation deck of the Alliance headquarters, watching ships from across the galaxy arrive for the historic ceremony. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd simply surrendered?" Santos asked. Alina shook her head. "Humanity doesn't surrender, it's not in our nature. We adapt, we innovate, we overcome, that's why we're here." Santos nodded, looking out at the stars that had once seemed so distant and were now pathways to allied worlds. They dared to threaten Earth, and in doing so, they awakened something greater than they could imagine. Elena finished. Below them, the representatives of the newly formed Galactic Republic prepared to forge a new future, one where no species would dominate another, where freedom and self-determination were recognized as universal rights, all because one primitive planet had refused to kneel. The stars themselves seemed to bear witness: humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and the universe would never be the same.